If you ever volunteer for a search and rescue operation, don't ignore the stories people tell around the campfire. Don't dismiss the warnings from veteran rangers. And if someone tells you they've already found the missing person, make sure they're talking about the same one. Because sometimes a rescue doesn't end when the missing person is brought home. Sometimes that's when the nightmare begins. 31-year-old Ryan Mercer spent nearly 7 years volunteering with a search and rescue team in the Pacific Northwest. He had searched for lost hikers, missing children, injured climbers, people stranded during snowstorms. In all those years, he had never experienced anything he couldn't explain. Until the summer of 2022, even now, Ryan refuses to return to Pine Ridge National Forest. Whenever someone mentions missing person cases, he changes the subject, and whenever he sees old search photographs, he remembers the hiker they found twice. This is Tales of the Dark, and this is the story of the hiker we found twice. Ryan Mercer was 31 years old and worked as a paramedic in Oregon. Search and rescue wasn't his full-time job. It was something he volunteered for on weekends. Most cases ended the same way. Someone got lost, the team searched, the person was found, case closed. The missing hiker named Daniel Cross initially seemed like one of those cases. Daniel was 28 years old, an experienced backpacker. According to his family, he'd planned a 3-day solo hiking trip through Pine Ridge National Forest. The area covered hundreds of square miles of dense wilderness, steep ridges, deep ravines, miles of forest trails. It wasn't uncommon for hikers to lose their bearings. When Daniel failed to return after 3 days, his sister reported him missing. The search began the following morning. Ryan arrived at the command post shortly after sunrise. The atmosphere felt normal, serious but normal. Nobody expected anything unusual. Daniel had hiking experience. He likely injured himself or wandered off trail. The weather had been unpredictable all week. Heavy fog rolled through the mountains every evening. Visibility often dropped to almost nothing. The first day produced no results. The second day wasn't much better. Search teams found a few boot prints near a creek, but rain had washed away most evidence. By the third day, concern began growing. Daniel should have been found by now. The forest wasn't infinite, yet it felt like he had vanished completely. That afternoon, Ryan joined a team searching a remote section known as Black Hollow. Local rangers disliked the area, not because it was dangerous, because it was strange. The valley sat lower than the surrounding forest. Fog collected there constantly. Radio signals frequently failed. Even GPS devices occasionally behaved unpredictably. Ryan dismissed the stories as exaggeration. Every forest had local legends. Every ranger station had rumors. As they descended into Black Hollow, the temperature seemed to drop noticeably. The trees grew thicker. The air became unnaturally quiet. Ryan noticed something odd almost immediately. There were no birds, no insects, no wildlife sounds, only silence, the kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing. One of the veteran volunteers, a man named Greg, slowed his pace. "You feel that?" he asked. Ryan nodded. "It is quiet." Greg didn't look convinced. "It's always quiet down here." The way he said it made Ryan uncomfortable. Hours passed. Nothing, no sign of Daniel, no equipment, no campsite, nothing. As evening approached, the team prepared to head back. Then one of the searchers shouted. Everyone froze. A backpack had been discovered beneath a fallen tree. Daniel's backpack. Inside were supplies, food, water, his identification, everything except Daniel himself. The discovery changed everything. People don't usually abandon their backpacks voluntarily, especially experienced hikers. Nightfall forced the team to retreat. The following morning, search efforts intensified. More volunteers arrived. Additional rangers joined the operation. A helicopter scanned the area overhead. By late afternoon, Ryan's team returned to Black Hollow. The atmosphere felt even stranger than before. Several volunteers reported hearing voices in the fog. Others claimed they saw movement between the trees. Nothing could be confirmed. Ryan remained skeptical. Stress and exhaustion could easily play tricks on people. Around 4 o'clock, Ryan spotted something ahead, a figure standing motionless among the trees. For a moment he thought it was another searcher. Then he realized the person wasn't wearing rescue gear. The figure looked thin, exhausted, dirty. Ryan's pulse quickened. Daniel, the man, slowly turned. His face appeared pale and hollow, his lips were cracked. His eyes looked terrified, not relieved, terrified, as if seeing the rescue team frightened him. Ryan and the others rushed forward. Daniel nearly collapsed. They caught him before he hit the ground. He was severely dehydrated, weak, barely able to stand, but alive. After 4 days missing, they had finally found him. The operation was over, or so everyone believed. During the hike back toward the command post, Daniel spoke only a few times. Every answer seemed strange. When asked where he had been, he struggled to explain. When asked how he survived, he couldn't remember clearly. But one statement stayed with Ryan. A ranger asked if Daniel had seen anyone else in the forest. Daniel looked genuinely frightened, then quietly replied, "I kept hearing somebody walking behind me." Nobody responded. The forest remained silent around them. Daniel continued, "Every night." Ryan assumed he meant another lost hiker or perhaps an animal, but Daniel shook his head. "It sounded exactly like me." A chill passed through the group. Nobody knew what to say. The conversation ended there. Several hours later, Daniel arrived safely at the hospital. Doctors examined him. His family rushed to see him. News outlets reported the successful rescue. The case was officially closed. Ryan returned home feeling satisfied. Another missing person found alive. Another happy ending. For 2 days, life returned to normal. Then on the third morning, Ryan received an urgent call from the search and rescue coordinator. The moment he answered, he knew something was wrong. The coordinator sounded shaken, not stressed. "Shaken." "Ryan," the man said, "we need you back at Pine Ridge." Ryan frowned. "Why?" There was a long pause, then the coordinator spoke. "We found Daniel again." Ryan laughed. "What do you mean?" Another silence. Then came the sentence that would change everything. "We found him in Black Hollow this morning." Ryan's smile disappeared. "That's impossible." The coordinator agreed because according to hospital records, Daniel Cross had never left his room. Ryan sat frozen with his phone pressed against his ear. For several seconds he couldn't speak. The coordinator's words made no sense. Daniel Cross had been rescued. Ryan had personally helped carry him out of Black Hollow. He had watched paramedics load him into an ambulance. Hospital staff had treated him. His family had visited him. There was paperwork, medical reports, witnesses. The case was over. Yet somehow another Daniel Cross had just been found in the exact same forest, in the exact same area. Ryan arrived at Pine Ridge National Forest less than 2 hours later. The atmosphere at the command post felt different this time. Nobody was talking. Several veteran rescuers stood outside staring into the woods. Others sat quietly, avoiding eye contact. Ryan immediately found the coordinator. "Tell me this is some kind of mistake." The coordinator looked exhausted. "I wish it was." He handed Ryan a photograph. Ryan felt his stomach tighten. The image showed Daniel Cross sitting on the ground near Black Hollow. Dirty clothes, same backpack, same injuries, same face. The exact same man they had rescued 3 days earlier. Ryan stared at the picture. "What about the hospital?" The coordinator rubbed his forehead. "That's the problem." Daniel was still there. Ryan thought he had misheard. "What? The original Daniel never left?" Ryan didn't respond. The coordinator continued. "Hospital security footage confirms it. Nurses saw him all night. His family visited yesterday." Ryan felt cold. "So who's in the forest?" Nobody had an answer. An hour later, Ryan joined the team heading toward Black Hollow. The weather looked identical to the first search. Heavy fog drifted between the trees. The forest seemed unusually quiet. Every step deeper into the valley made Ryan more uncomfortable. Eventually, they reached a temporary ranger shelter. Inside sat Daniel Cross, or at least someone who looked exactly like him. The moment Ryan entered, the man looked up. Recognition appeared on his face. "You're the paramedic." Ryan stopped. The man sounded exactly like Daniel. "You remember me?" Of course. Ryan sat across from him. His pulse pounded in his ears. The man looked frightened, exhausted, confused, exactly like the first Daniel. "Do you know where you are?" Ryan asked. "Pine Ridge." "Do you know what day it is?" Daniel gave the correct date. Everything seemed normal. Then Ryan asked the obvious question, "Have you been rescued before?" The man's expression changed immediately. "What, have you been rescued in the last few days?" Daniel stared at him. "No." Ryan exchanged a glance with the coordinator. Neither knew what to say next. Then Daniel leaned forward. "I've been trying to tell people something." The room became silent. "What is it?" Ryan asked. Daniel swallowed hard. "I wasn't alone out there." Ryan felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Who was with you?" Daniel looked toward the shelter window, toward the forest. "I don't know." For several seconds he remained silent. Then he continued. "The first night I got lost, I heard somebody walking behind me." Ryan remembered those same words from the original rescue. "The second night I saw him." "Who?" Daniel's face turned pale. "He looked exactly like me." Nobody spoke. The shelter felt suddenly smaller, the air heavier. Daniel continued. "I thought I was hallucinating." Ryan wanted to dismiss it. Stress, dehydration, fear, yet something about Daniel's expression stopped him. The terror looked genuine. "He never spoke," Daniel whispered. "He just watched me." A long silence followed. Then Daniel said something that made Ryan's blood run cold. "He was always ahead of me." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" "I'd see him standing on trails I hadn't reached yet." Nobody had an explanation. The interview ended shortly afterward. Daniel was transporting to a different hospital. Authorities launched an investigation. Fingerprints confirmed both men were Daniel Cross. DNA tests confirmed both men were Daniel Cross. Medical records matched perfectly. Even old scars appeared in the same locations. The impossible had become official. There were two identical Daniel Crosses. For several days, investigators tried finding a logical explanation. Twins, fraud, identity theft, nothing fit. Then things became even stranger. The second Daniel began describing events that occurred after the first rescue. Private conversations between doctors. Conversations Ryan had personally witnessed. Details from hospital rooms, specific interactions with family members, things he could not possibly know, yet every detail was correct. When investigators asked how he knew those things, Daniel seemed genuinely confused. Then he gave an answer nobody forgot, "Because I remember them." The room went silent. "You remember being in the hospital?" "Yes, but you were in the forest." Daniel looked frightened. Then he said, "I think both things happened." The investigation eventually reached a dead end. No evidence could explain the situation. No expert could explain the situation. And then, without warning, the second Daniel disappeared. One morning, his hospital room was empty. No alarms, no signs of forced entry, nothing. Security footage revealed something disturbing. At 3:17 a.m., Daniel simply walked out of his room, alone, calmly, then exited the building. He was never seen again. Months passed. The story quietly disappeared. Authorities sealed most records. The public never learned the full details. Ryan tried moving on, but he couldn't stop thinking about Black Hollow, or the second Daniel, or the things he had said. Nearly 6 months later, Ryan received access to archived search photographs from the original operation. Late one night, he reviewed them at home. Hundreds of images, nothing unusual, until he reached a photograph taken the day before Daniel was found. The image showed several rescuers searching a trail near Black Hollow. At first, everything looked normal. Then Ryan noticed a figure in the background, standing between two trees, watching. Ryan zoomed in. His heart nearly stopped. It was Daniel, not the rescued Daniel, not the hospital Daniel, another one. The figure stood far back in the forest, partially hidden by fog, watching the search team, watching them before Daniel had officially been found. Ryan checked the timestamp. The photograph was authentic, the date was correct. The image had been taken nearly 24 hours before the rescue. His hands trembled. Then he noticed something else. Another figure stood deeper among the trees, almost invisible, watching the first Daniel. And when Ryan zoomed further, he realized something horrifying. The second figure was also Daniel, 3 identical men standing in the forest, watching one another. Ryan immediately closed the image. He never opened it again. Years later, he still refuses to enter Pine Ridge National Forest. Officially, Daniel Cross was rescued once and disappeared once. That's the story recorded in public records. But Ryan knows what he saw, because somewhere inside Black Hollow, there may still be another Daniel Cross standing among the trees, waiting for search teams to find him again. And if that's true, nobody knows how many times they've already found him before, if you are brave enough to hear more nightmares. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, and if you have your own terrifying experience, leave it in the comments or send your story by email. Maybe your nightmare will become the next story told here.